So I spent some time thinking of what exactly to put here. Like, I played a lot of fighting games this year. Not close to as much as last year. Like, last year too has just been the absolute haven for competitive fighting games. But because these games are so fucking comp, I'm not gonna lie, you get seriously burnt out. Constantly hitting the training grounds, getting back online, and then getting bullied. Then back to the training grounds, and the cycle continues. Multiple fucking times. So, color me surprised when a nice, relatively simple, mechanically driven game that, in my opinion, you don't have to take that seriously to get good, and you can just chop it up and enjoy it with your friends came out. Not to mention the fact that, as well, from one of my favorite IPs and GOAT, Bleach. Yes, I'm talking about Bleach, Rebirth of Souls, which I've seen get a lot of unnecessary hate from people that were looking for, I don't know, another like come Street Fighter or some shit. Look, what I got is exactly what I wanted. The essence of Bleach and its artistic style contained in a fucking game, with each character in Bleach lovingly ripped out of the anime. The animations, the movesets, the ultimates, they all carry that essence of Bleach. Even the way the game didn't choose the standard approach of fighting games to represent that felt like Bleach. The UI and music felt like Bleach. I'm playing a Bleach game, guys. What the hell more do you want? I don't really like horror games. Like, that's just a fact. Especially the ones that are just scary to heighten your blood pressure. Like, you know a horror game is shit when you see a corner or you're about to enter some animation and you just sigh and you're like, yep, here comes the bullshit. Of course, the more established or interesting titles will have to work to heighten your blood pressure, either through more particularly crafted scares, or as Silent Hill showed me for the first time in the less than 5 horror games that I played, 2 of them being these games, through just pure atmospheric resonance. Silent Hill 2 doesn't try to jump scare you. Instead, it tries to get deep under your skin and give you the, what's the word? Heebie-jeebies? What else can I call this creature than that, man? You'll walk down a hallway or crawl through a hole just waiting for the scare. But the game goes out of its way to not give it to you. And somehow, that's worse. The atmosphere? It's magnetic. Like a slow creeping fever dream dragged out of some hallucinogenic hell. The kind of experience that stays with you even when the screen's off. A lot of games try to create that feeling. Silent Hill 2 Remake perfects it. There's no over-the-top gore, just raw, quiet dread. The soundtrack by Akira Yamaoka is also on another level, with these industrial, ambient, and unsettling tracks. It doesn't tell you when to be scared, it just exists, humming in the background like something's watching you. The story, on the other hand, is heartbreaking in ways I didn't expect. No spoilers, but this isn't just horror, it's psychological. It's human. Every single character is flawed. But what I really loved about the game is how this is portrayed. How the exact same sins and actions can lead to completely different endings, based on how you view them. How the monsters, setting, and basically Silent Hill in general is a place solely interpreted through its cast of characters, ever changing. It's fucking great because it makes this game character driven in every aspect. allowing you to clue in pieces of James or other characters, not just based on what they say or how they act, but based on their surroundings. It's brilliant. I will say that if puzzle games aren't really your thing, especially relatively linear ones, where it's like A to B, then solve puzzle, even though I love the set pieces and designs of said puzzles, as well as the enemies and resources you had to manage in between them, it did get a bit too cyclic for my taste by the end of the game. A problem I hope that the first one doesn't have, or the original doesn't have. Also, expect to do a lot of reading in between the lines in terms of the story. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a man that only knew TikTok hopped on this game and exited it only knowing the main character's name is James. This game is already a fan service and cult classic, so there's not really much I can say for people that are fans of the trilogy, but to those that are new or haven't given it a shot, it is good. I know exactly why, but trust me, most of the best things in life only comes when you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and pursue those things. And you don't want to miss out on this game. I really, really want to play the original after having had a go. And honestly, I had no clue this shit was only 7 hours. How the hell did they condense this shit into a 7-hour game? This is a bit of a weird one, because on one hand, I really want to recommend this with the idea that everyone will like it, and on the other hand, I know for a fact everyone won't. But I have to say, for all the qualms I had about the story here, this is one of the most uniquely told direction styles combined with story I think I've ever seen. And I haven't watched anything else by the director here, Yorgos Lanthimos. Even though I know he's extremely famous for his other movie, Poor Things. The first thing that smacked me in the face, the cinematography. Like, it genuinely made me uncomfortable with weirdly long takes, perfectly off-kilter framing, and this clinical sort of stillness that makes everything feel surreal, perfectly matching the absurdist narrative he was trying to tell here. Which, without getting into spoilers, was weird as fuck. The film is split into 3 separate stories, all with the same cast playing different characters, almost like a stage play. I'll be real, since I had no clue what was going on walking into this film, this bit completely caught me off guard. Like, was thinking of separate dimension theories and shit completely off guard. At first, it throws you off, but once you realize it's deliberate, it starts to feel like you're watching some kind of twisted anthology about morality, obedience, and most importantly, power. Every character is stuck in some weird power dynamic, doing what they're told even when it's absolutely fucking insane. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda loved. Like, here I am watching real people behave in the most bizarre ways, with the camera being extremely calm about it. Making this shit fucking feel so creepy. I'll admit, not every story worked for me. Some parts felt drawn out, and sometimes it felt like it was really trying, a bit too hard to be deep, without always earning it. I think this was mostly because how segmented and short each part was. But even then, I couldn't help but admire how bold this shit was. And that's all I'm really looking for in media, shit that tries something different. This isn't a casual watch. It's the kind of film you sit with afterwards, either scratching your head or debating it with someone. I just want to start by saying I really haven't watched a lot of new anime this year. Like at all. I made a whole video about kind of why already on my channel. One thing I feel like I didn't really mention in that video, so I might as well clear the air for for that right now. But there's legitimately nothing wrong with enjoying these shows, bro. I've just personally watched a lot of them to the point where I'm numb, and only the best of them can really get my attention at all. So this video was just an observation and a cry for where I currently see the direction of anime heading. But back on topic, Orb is really way less about the intricacies of astronomy as the show would have you think. Like, we get characters monologuing, extreme calculations that I promise you the author doesn't give a shit about, and more about the philosophy of it. Particularly the philosophy of the truth and how exactly people will do almost anything to hide from it. Look, I'm a Christian, so I'll tell you for free that if you're not somewhat strong in your faith or have a really open mind when it comes to criticism, or have already explored all the critiques this show has towards Christianity and still chose to stay, then you probably might be offended watching it. Because the show uses religion, particularly Christianity, as the boilerplate code for running away from the harsh realities or truths of life, and heaven as the ultimate form of escapism. Regardless, this wasn't what I loved about the show. What I loved was the unique form of storytelling in it. The show basically does something I rarely see done in anime or media in general, where, without getting into spoilers, you get to experience different storylines across history in a linear pattern. And it just feels really natural. Like, I'm on this historical journey, experiencing the lives of these people, feeling how their actions impacted other people's down the line, or how certain characters reappear down the timeline, completely different to where we originally met them. Changed by time. I've always loved shit like this. It really breathes life into the world and makes it feel so much more real. It genuinely makes me want to know about what happened to certain characters when we get time skips, or want to see how exactly events unfolded at cliffhangers. Everything in this show is intrinsically tied to this theme of truth, and how the pursuit of that truth, or maybe the refusal to accept it, literally drove people insane. More than anything, I think this show really made me introspective. And ultimately, you're going to have to face these things eventually. The show does a really good job of showing how, no matter how hard you run away from them, they ultimately will beckon at your doorstep. Next is a Fantastic Four. What a shocker. I played through Silent Hill 2 Remake and Mouthwash in the span of what, a year? Am I a horror fan or some shit now? Mouthwashing is a short first-person indie horror game where you play as a co-pilot turned captain of a crashed spaceship for a corporate company, the Pony Express freighter Tulpar. And well, as supplies slowly start to dwindle out, our crew of 4 begin to resort to drinking what was technically years of their life's work carrying. The story unfolds in non-linear scenes showing before and after the crash, slowly revealing mysteries, choices characters made, and reflections of who they are as the plot slowly untangles itself into what I believe is ultimately the truest reflection of every character. Let me tell you guys something. These are not really horror games to me. Or maybe, because I've never really been a horror game guy, these don't feel like horror games. Or maybe I've just been getting recommended the wrong stuff. Regardless, I went into this game completely blind, with the only clues I had that it was some kind of game that was similar to Silent Hill 2. So I was already coming into this with the idea it was more character, story, and atmosphere driven. Even the title, mouthwashing. The act of trying to rid bacteria or dirt from your teeth. Yet even the bottled container doesn't guarantee 100% removal, no matter how hard or how much of this stuff you have. This game is not for the faint of heart, or for, in my opinion, somebody in a bad place in their life. Actually, if you're in a bad spot in life, we don't play the show, what the hell. Similar to Silent Hill 2, This is a horror game, but this is also primarily a character-driven game about people, about our choices and the impacts they can have, and whether or not redemption is possible or not. The game does a really good job of making it clear that you can't run from your choices, no matter how fucking much of a degenerate, piece of shit, selfish asshole that you are. Yes, I'm venting right now. But the game is even more than that, and I'm ever only going to really scratch the surface of it in such a quick segment speaking about it. But to narrow down the pure feeling I got playing it, anxious would be the right word. How come it always seems like you're standing on the edge of a bridge with your feet in cement? The game makes you realize the pure weight behind every potential decision you make in your life, good or shitty. How either can still lead to a bad outcome, and how we are ultimately still responsible for them. I'm not even going to get into these little abstract details the game does, showing us things subtly that would ultimately take multiple replays to find. Just some things I, really fucking thought were cool as hell. As spoiler free as possible, by the way. The fact that so many themes in the game represented by the ship that people decide to just hop on without, thinking too much about. And how ultimately, if that ship crashed, you're stuck, just drifting through the fallout. The narrow, repetitive halls of the ship felt like they reflected the feeling of being stuck in life, circling the same problems, never escaping. And something that's very similar to Silent Hill 2, you can't tell what's real and what's guilt by the end. The horror or the monsters portrayed isn't that something might jump out. It's that you're the one who brought the worst parts with you. And don't even get me started on the really simple to extremely thought out level design. It's like they had the bare minimum and forced themselves to make it work in a way that was more engaging and creative than a lot of AAA games. I'll be here forever and probably make a separate video about this at some point, not gonna lie. Heck, even details on each of the characters, the things they did, and the moral grainness behind everything. Yes, even a certain character. I know that's a crazy take, and hopefully I highlight that point in a separate video. By the way, not saying that what he did was right. I'm saying that he isn't pure evil. Heck, he reminds me of a certain character from Orb. Nobody on this ship is evil, and that's the beauty of it. Look, as somebody that always questions if they're on the right path, this game really hit me, because it was like a mirror of a potential future looking me dead in the eyes in every single character that appeared. Likeable or not, it didn't matter. They chose the ship they were on, and they were going to have to live with that choice forever. Even though I know this game isn't strictly 2025, heck, this game isn't even post-2020, I think. But I just kind of had to. I enjoyed playing it way too much, and I genuinely think that not a lot of people have heard about it. Therefore, I can get some people to play it. You play as Jill in a dystopian bar-like setting, where the goal of the game is to more or less just create drinks for the random offshoot people that enter your small but pretty cool looking bar. And the people that do stumble across this in-game are almost magnetically drawn to it. And it's two bartenders and boss. Gillian is the most laid back, chill, and really fucking mysterious character that, I don't know, bruh, the game does a really good job of genuinely not making me know who or what the fuck he is. Like, this guy could legitimately be a cyborg, a shapeshifter, a secret agent, or all of the three, and I genuinely would not be surprised. Dana, the boss, is a fucking beast of a woman who's well known in the underground scene and walks around with the confidence of someone who's stared death in the face and punched it for looking at her wrong. She's just got that aura.
Pause.
Like, she could organize a rave, win a street fight, and broker an arms deal all before lunch. Heck, swear she actually did that shit. She doesn't just run VA11 Hall A, she protects it. And you can tell that even the wildest patrons, cybernetically enhanced or not, respect her not just out of fear, but admiration. Jill isn't your typical protagonist. She's melancholy, quietly funny, and sharp. She's clearly got some emotional baggage, but it's through her tired, deeply human lens that you really get to feel Glitch City. And I honestly wouldn't have had any other characters my protagonist. What I love about this game is that, if you notice anything I mentioned before, this city that our protagonist belongs to is fucking crazy, but it's never directly said. Everything about Glitch City is subtly shown and interpreted through Jill and the insane cast of characters, ranging from ex-military hackers and pseudo-government enforcers, android idols, and the talking corgi. Just to name a few. This game honestly reminds me of Rare Window, you know, for my English high school guys that were forced to watch that movie. Patrons to the bar all shared little bits of information about their lives, with of course a little bit of drink in the system, allowing you, the player, to piece together the world through overhead conversations, offhand remarks, drunk ramblings, and some deeply personal moments. All this builds little by little throughout the game to build this image of Glitch City. I just love shit like this. Check out my last video to get why. You know, anything that just presents its story, characters, and world in a subtle but dynamically interesting way. Bro, look no further than VA11 Hall A. Dark is so far one of the best time travel series I think I've ever watched. Perfectly shot with a haunting mix of slow burn, musically shot visuals. The show is extremely dense with ridiculous amounts of foreshadowing that feeds off your attention, theories, and ideas. I honestly would have included it in the list if not for the fact that, well, I haven't finished it yet. Void Strangers. This is probably one of the most addictive, grindy, yeah, fun puzzle games I've played in a while. I don't know. The game perfectly checks that corner of your brain that needs checking every once in a while. You know, that piece of media where the story is abstracted and split into corners of the world that you need to grind in order to find. And where when you do see it, both the journey to get there is both fun and rewarding. My only gripe so far in the game is that there's zero hand-holding. Like, bro, at least tell me the basic rules of the game first. But yeah, I know people find that aspect of the game fun too. Also, haven't finished it yet. Finally, we have Fiona and Cake, which I'm somehow only getting into now, and I don't know, bro. It's insanely good. I was scared it wouldn't properly capture the essence of Adventure Time or have any importance in the story, and boy was I wrong. This season stands hand in hand with the peak of Adventure Time. Okay, I actually finished this one. Anime, guys. I know, there was only one on the list from an anime channel, so here are some shows I'm currently watching this season and enjoying. Done. They would also have made it to the list if I completed them. Comics are things I usually read very a little of, like very little. When I mean I don't really read a lot of comics, I truly mean that shit. Like, I've read this Superman comic as well as the GOAT, Sandman. That's it. I stumbled onto this comic when I just randomly ran into some of the most beautiful fucking art. The colors, character designs, and paneling just instantly stuck out to me and made me go, this shit is most definitely going to be thought-provoking and heroic in some kind of way. And as usual with my gut instinct about shit, I wasn't wrong. I don't really read comics, so I struggle to call this an origin story. But I feel like I have to, because even though we're following an emotionally mature and complete Supergirl, one that has completed her journey, if I must say, we also get an in-depth look into her origin and how that has shaped her into who she is today. This feels like an origin story. The story starts with the introduction of one of the two main characters, Ruthie Mary Null, who was introduced using this really introspective monologue she gives about the man who killed her father and the primary and villain of the comic, Creme of the Yellow Hills. I already knew I was gonna like this comic from right fucking here. It's not the fact that it set itself up as just a simple revenge tale or that the art was pretty that completely hooked me. It was the way the writing was presented in the story. You'll see this a lot, but the dialogue, narration, or introspection are all done in a way that's really subtle, interpretive, and layered. My father, whose name I will not record here, for I do not wish it learned, did not die a dignified or honorable death. A criminal and a thief and a liar, who at that time identified himself as Creme and claimed the Yellow Hills as his place of origin, stabbed him through with a coppice blade. Creme had come upon our rock farm the day before, requesting shelter and a meal, which he was granted by my kind and godly family. After he woke in the morning, he got into words with my father on the subject of our new king. These words were ended when Creme unsheathed his weapon. My dear father was unarmed. Scab. You see what I mean? It feels like the narrator perfectly knew what words to use in as little space as possible to feel exactly what Ruthie was feeling, explore what happened, and to get to the root of who Creme is as a character. It's almost poetic. This is the entire 8 issues. Literally nearly made me want to up my video essay scripts. Nearly. Deciding on revenge for her father's killer, Ruthie then decides to hire a mercenary for revenge using her father's killer's sword as collateral. We then get introduced to the character we know as Supergirl, when Ruthie's collateral is nearly quote-unquote exploited. And let me just start by saying her character introduction more or less says a lot about the character. Even drunk, worn down, and far from a conventional hero at this exact moment, she can't ignore a child being exploited by a mercenary, who, by the way, is also really well-spoken for some reason, like every fucking character in this book. And as a person who watches anime and is used to the typical bandit trope, I was not expecting that at all. A drunk Supergirl saving Ruthie in her distress immediately establishes her moral compass or presence as a character in the story. And skipping a few parts I don't want to, spoil, we more or less follow her journey through the solar system as she travels with Ruthie across the universe to track down and capture Creme, unveiling Creme's path of destruction, chaos, and cruelty as they follow in his wake. Like, this stark contrast between the actions Creme makes and the one Supergirl makes in his wake are goddamn like night and day. And I don't know, man, just a really cool, interesting way to contrast Supergirl as a character. And honestly, the whole time I couldn't help but wonder if Creme's actions would, change some of her principles. Since, damn, this guy was wilding on some Doflamingo, Darth Vader, I don't know, Doodlebob Sakuna type shit. The whole time you're watching this path of destruction, you have to ask yourself if one of Supergirl's convictions is actually true. Does everyone deserve to be saved? Supergirl, during this journey, would make you think yes. No. She would make you feel yes. Because there's just something about a hero with truly unbendable will towards good that's inspiring and hopeful. Something about a dream that feels almost too good for reality, embodied by a character that endures it into realization. Choosing to stand back up countless times that's both part emotional and magical. And I think that's the ultimate word I can use to embody the feeling I had reading this comic. And I could drone on and on about this shit, but I'm just gonna say this. This shit touched me. Pause. But for real, this is the perfect character piece on Supergirl. And even though I haven't read her other pieces, well, forget them. This is all you're going to need to start if you're interested in her as a hero.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for watching all the way till the end, and hopefully you enjoyed this one anyways. I had some, low-key little bits and bobs of some media that I really enjoyed this year. Like a really standout one for me actually was Mouthwashing. Now you might think that's a top 10 list, and even though I ranked it as such, in reality, I did enjoy every single one just about as much. Like even though Silent Hill 2 Remake was at the very back of it, because I just remember there was a lot of like boring moments for me in the game. Overall, like the moments that hit in Silent Hill 2 really fucking hit just as much as like a mouth-washing moment. But mouth-washing was just a lot more compact of a game. Obviously there's a lot of stuff I didn't finish yet, a lot of anime, a lot of games, like Void Stranger that I'm enjoying a lot, getting through it, and would have made it to the list if I finished it, but bruh, I can't hit everything. And yeah, if there's any recommendations that anybody has that you think maybe I should check out that I haven't checked out this year, you can drop that shit down in the comments. I'll get to it when I finish Void Strangers and the other list of shit that I haven't finished yet. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for watching it till the end, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.